A bit of a cliffhanger last week. We are bringing out the best in your husband. And last week we brought up all these problems, and today, hopefully with everybody's help, we are going to solve these problems. Okay, fine. So here is the situation. Last week we had a great show. The title of today is Bringing Out the Best in Your Husband.
Yeah, you get to hear something.
Okay, there we go. Hey, he's testing. Okay, so what we're going to do, I'm going to actually, we usually go right into the homework, but I want the recap. But I had this burning story that I had to tell. This story is just to get us in the mindset of what it is to have to shift our brain. We're all capable of doing this, shifting our brain into another mode of thinking. So I had a friend, we were young, and she was critical of everything. So I mean, I'd walk into a room and I'm like, oh, it's so nice here. And she'd say, oh, look at the rug it's dirty over there. And the light fixtures look like they're from the 1920s. And you know, she could pick out everything that I was wearing, that other people were wearing. She walked into a room and was a critical mass. And you ask, why was I friends with her? I don't know why. She lived near me. That's how. No, but anyway, but she was an extremely critical person. And I always worried about her because what's going to be with her relationships? Like, what's going to be with her relationship with her husband? Like, how can she get through a life with walking into every situation and putting it down? So here's the magic of, you see, people have innate qualities. They're born with innate abilities, innate strengths, innate weaknesses, innate character traits. And here is her character trait. She she notices everything and she criticizes everything. And she wasn't a sour, depressing type of person. I don't know that I would have been able to, even if she lived close, I don't think I would have been friends with her. So it was just this part of her that she was born with. What can you do with that? So I'll tell you what happened with this girl. She actually became a hotel spy. Okay? And you may never have heard of a hotel spy. Neither had I. I don't know if she'd even call herself that. She was a hotel spy. So what did she do? She got on a plane. She flew to wherever the hotel chain sent her. She'd get off the plane. She'd check into the hotel. And as she's walking, she gets pulled up. Oh, the doorman didn't race over to hitch the door fast enough. Oh, look at that. They swept up all of the patio, but they swept it all into the gutter. It looks horrible there. She'd walk in, smiling. She's a spy. She had to pretend she was a normal person. Somebody's knocking the door. Somebody needs to grab the door. So she was, thank you very much. She was, then she'd walk in, they wouldn't know she was a spy. She'd act like a regular guest. She would go to the checkout counter. What's it called? Not the checkout counter. What am I looking for?
The desk?
The front desk? The front desk. She'd go to the front desk and she'd see, did someone rush right over to her? Did they not rush right over? Whatever could go wrong, believe me, it was being, taken down in her notes so that she could write a report on these people. She walked into the kitchen. She, strolled around housekeeping. She stayed for 3 or 4 days, and here's the bottom line. She took her innate character trait of not being able, of criticizing and not being able to let things go, and she used it for a profession that paid her very well. And that sounds like a fun profession, actually. It's hard to get those jobs. You have to be like her. You have to be so nitpicky that everything bothers you. And she landed up marrying a guy, and she's been married for a couple of decades. So why am I telling you this story? What can we learn from this story? Here's the situation. You have women who spend most of their time criticizing their husband. You have to ask yourself, am I one of those women? Do I look for things to critique him about because I'm so smart? If you have the innate ability to critique, if you have that ability, use it for the good. Look at what she did with her life. So where we want to go with this is we want to take, you can have a seat right there, thank you. We want to take our innate inner critic or whatever and use it for the good. So rather than picking our husband apart, Look for things, use your critiquing ability to say, he's been sitting in that chair for the last 10 years, and the table for the chair where he's supposed to set down his coffee, he has to go like that. Oh, could they hear me? He has to go like that, right? So he's putting it over. Use your critic ability to push the table closer to the guy or push the chair closer to the guy. Use your innate critic to be able to take care of your family better, to take care of yourself better. That's what this story is all about. And so that's what we're going to be working on. Now, we're working on bringing out the best in our husband. And, the women are like, oh, yeah, but I need that class because I need to fix him. And as you saw from last week, there are some very challenging things that come out week after week after week that we fight with our husband. There's these conflicts. There's big decisions that need to be made, and it's very difficult. I like your lipstick's color. It's great. There are these difficult situations. How do we get at them? So I'm going to remind you, these are the ones we discussed last week. Number one, if you remember, if you haven't seen last week's show, it's a good setup for today because you'll learn a lot. First of all, was everybody screaming last week? You couldn't get the lid on it last week. So it's worth seeing that and seeing also what people's knee-jerk reactions. And what I mean by knee-jerk reactions, like something happens to you, and the first thing you think of to do. Newsflash. Knee-jerk reactions usually are bad. Usually it's not good. It's usually like our gut instinct, like our husband says something like, why did you put the thing here? And you're like, because. Knee-jerk, usually not good. If you had thought about it, you would have said, I didn't put it there. One of the kids put it there. Or I put it there because of whatever it is. Knee-jerk's usually bad. So last week we got everybody's knee-jerk reaction to how do you solve these problems. Here are the three problems. Number one, there was a family that moved into an apartment. She wanted a kitchen nook so they'd fit everybody around. He wanted a table and 6 chairs. 6 chairs because that's all that would fit. Just like if a kid has one friend over, what are they going to do? Where are they going to sit? How's it going to work? Good question. We're going to learn how to solve it today. Number 2 question. The father was harsh with a teenage girl, and when the daughter said things like, oh, you look fat in that dress to her sister, or she said her mother's gazpacho soup tasted awful, so what happened? The father said, go to your room. And the mother's like, no, wait a minute. Why, how would you feel if that happened to you? And of course, the daughter spends the next 10 minutes giving a diatribe justifying her bad behavior. Okay, so I don't know whether my husband's right, the wife's right, maybe the husband's too harsh. I don't know what the answer is. We're going to talk about it today. But this decision, these kind of conflicts and these kinds of decisions, we need to have a bulletproof plan for how to solve them in a way that brings us closer rather than tears us apart. Number 3, a man is sitting in his living room. And, his office is in the living room, and he's messy, and it drives the wife nuts. How do you solve that problem? How do you make the decision? What should happen? Should they get a sheet? Should she build a wall around him and leave him in it with no door? How do you solve the situation as a couple? Okay, fine. That was the cliffhanger from last week. I just reiterated. Now, at the end of that, I did give you a little taste of what we're going to be covering today, which is about control. We're going to talk about that. Now, the control is, we discussed, a man needs control like he needs oxygen. And we all know that when a man doesn't have control, we all know that God himself is the one who has ultimate control. We don't have control. We look like we have control, and our actions can shift, right? Can shift things around. But the ultimate person, nobody ultimately has control. God has control. A person who's been trying to have babies for years, God can give her a baby if he wants to. So God has the ultimate control. But that's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about here, a man needs to, good to see you, a man needs to feel like he has control. If a man does not feel like he has control, he becomes a shadow of his former self. He can't operate in the world feeling like he makes a difference in the world. And so you find women come and say, oh, my husband, he gives up on everything. He's apathetic. He doesn't work on anything. He doesn't try. Maybe because he's tried and tried and tried, and all of the control is out of his hands. Well, he becomes apathetic. He becomes less volitional in not only in taking care of you, and not only in family life, but also in his business. You'll find a woman whose husband feels like he has control. He'll bring more money into the house. That is for sure. You want more money? Let him have the control. Now, does that mean you become like, yes, dear, whatever you say? No. We're going to learn today that is far more powerful and more important to have influence than it ever was to have control. Okay? It is very powerful. I'm telling you, this is a game changer. If you take this on seriously with your full heart, this can completely change your life. So what is it going to? We're going to talk about what it's going to look like. I want to start off by talking a little bit about society's influence. Hold on. Are there any? Oh no, we forgot. We had to do homework. But are there any questions or comments so far? Nothing. It's much noisier here. If you have to tiptoe. Sorry. Thanks for coming. So let's go right to the homework, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about how did it land up that women think they need control. Now, women, believe me, this is such a political hotbed. Like, I have a nerve in this day and age to say a woman should give the husband control. No, it's not that at all. We're powerful women. You heard the women last week. You heard what they had to say. Powerful women, strong women, self-confident women, strength. We're learning to have influence rather than control. And you will see. I have like 20. I have so many I can't even list them. How many benefits it is going to be for you to give up control. There's a dozen different benefits that we're going to go through. Yeah.
What if the husband is unsure of certain things and he asks for your guidance?
Yay. Did they hear that question?
Yeah.
It's such a good question. I want to make sure everybody heard it. So it's exactly right. That means you get the gold star for the day, okay? Because what that means is because you've given him control, he now can turn around to ask you what your opinion is, and then you give it. That's what you're here for.
What if he's unsure of himself and it's not a good thing? And he's like asking for you to control.
Oh, I see what you're saying. You mean the relationship is such that however. Okay,
in certain issues, let's say.
Here's the difference. It's a very good question. Here's the difference. If you grab control, you ripped it out of his hands. If he's given it to you, it's because he trusts you. You're doing it right. You're doing it right. And we're going to learn precisely how to get to. By the end of this class, you will know exactly how to do exactly what she's doing. Because, and it could be that he's asking you to control things and do things that you don't want to be in charge of. I hear that. So we can discuss that also. But in terms of we have this thing, right? A man is sitting there, right? And he's like the captain of the ship, whatever. And who is the navigator? That's you. That's our job, right? And if the navigator elbows him out of the way and grabs the thing, and he's left on the ground there off in the corner, right? That's called grabbing his control, and that means you're completely making your husband ineffectual, not only in his life, but in taking care of you and in loving you. And every woman, I meet powerhouse women that senators, presidents, not presidents, but, really powerful people come into, we all kind of rub elbows with people. Powerful people, and they'll say, I really just want to look up to my man. I want to look up to him. I want to, look, there's a little girl in all of us wants to be a little princess taken care of by our guy. So I'm not saying that's how you have to be that. I'm not saying you have to keep your opinions in, but how you express them. And I've got some sources we'll go through in a little bit, but how you express them makes all the difference in the world, and that's what we're going to learn today. Okay, so let's go right to the homework. Okay. Leah's secret of the day from last week was the more control we give up, the more connected we will be. And the homework for the week, notice when you're trying to control your husband and zip your lip one time last week. Was anybody able to do this homework?
Yeah, no, I didn't zip my lip.
You didn't zip your lip. Okay, it says serene, of course.
But I will say that it was twice while we were driving in the car, so I'm totally excusing that as no woman could zip her lip while they're driving the car. Okay. I've been working on it for how many years with you? I got maybe a little better, but it's still hard. So during the rest of the day, I was very careful and I was very aware, and I would pull back a lot. But when we get into the car, old Sarit comes back, and automatically maybe I should just drive from now on. It would probably make my life much simpler. But basically, my husband, we were going to take my son to school. And my husband says, I'll drive you. And I said, that's great, wonderful. He was home, we'll go together. And we get into the car, and he pulls out of our driveway, and he goes into the right lane. Now, we live on Highland, and it's 2 lanes, and the left lane has a little turnaround. So you can actually avoid the light at the end, and you can avoid having to go all the way around the block. I mean, it
By
saves
the way,
you a lot of time.
Sarit has rabbinic permission to talk about her husband and permission from her husband. So nobody else can sort of say what their husband does wrong so specifically. But Sarit can. So let's listen. What?
Exactly. Let me share. No.
Right, okay.
So basically, he goes into the right lane, which means he's not in the right lane. Excuse me.
Correct
the pun.
lane. Right,
Exactly. He's not in the correct lane.
Got it.
So, of course, not being able to keep my mouth shut, I said, Why aren't you going into that lane? And he says to me, because I'm just going to go around the corner, and it's very much easier. We just avoid having to get into that lane, and we just go around. And I said, no, that causes more time, and I've done this, and I've clocked it, and I can get to the school in under 5 minutes, 4 minutes and 20 seconds to be exact, and now you're going to add another minute and a half.
Wait, time out. Is there anybody like Sarit?
It was whatever. Anyways, so he literally looks at me and says, why am I driving with you? And why did I offer to do this nice little errand with you? And I'm like, oh gosh, you're right. I said, you know what? I'm sorry, you're right. Just do whatever you want. And he goes and he veers into the other lane to do what I want. And he goes into the turnaround, and he drives, and he says, where else would you like me to turn? What's the next turn I should make? And I told him where to turn the next turn. And we got there in 5 minutes. Okay, that extra little few minutes because he had to think about it. But I looked at him and I said, do you see how my way works so well? So I really pushed it, and the poor man.
And what did he say?
He actually nodded at me, and he goes, yeah, you're right. It actually went much faster. But I felt terrible because the whole thing was not, I was really controlling him. And I guarantee you from what you've taught us that I would have gone there the same way probably, or even faster if I would have done it by letting him do it. But it was just, it's an instinctive thing. I get into the car, and I did it to him again another time where he was
it's
pulled
especially where it's carpool, where it's your routine. You know what I'm saying?
For sure. But I just
that
feel
was a doubly. It's driving with the husband, plus it's the routine that's your routine that he's trying to do, and he's doing it wrong.
Exactly. But he was trying to come with me.
It was a big challenge.
Okay, good. I'm happy you're saying that because
very big challenge,
it was such a nice thing that he offered to come with me, and I kind of ruined it.
Yeah.
In the sense of making it not as pleasant in the experience. And
okay, so let me give a timeout, because here's the thing. Very weird. We got a lot of mail this week. By the way, the mailbag, what do? You click on tag friends, and
like,
click on, and
follow,
phones off, guys.
Share.
What'd you say? And share, do all that stuff. But here's the thing. I got so much mail this week on driving. We didn't even talk about driving last week. I guess because we talked about control last week. So I got all these emails regarding, so in the email, but I was going to share them. We have too much to cover today. We have a bazillion things. This is a big topic, and everybody seems to be, this sets everybody's, the board on fire, whatever.
Leah, you say control, everyone hears car.
Car, right.
It's
so
the
here's
same thing.
Here's a couple of things in the car that you have to understand. You have to understand perspective. So for those of you who are good at geometry, I'm not one of you, or maybe I am. I don't know. Spatial relations. I'm really good in spatial relations, so maybe this isn't geometry. Okay, so spatial relations. Here's the situation. When you are driving a car, you're actually here, and the side mirror is here, and then there's all this stuff over. Ooh, hello, sorry about that. Yikes.
That's your car seat.
That's my car seat, right? Whatever. But there's all the stuff over there, and then way over in the planet, out by Jupiter. What's that thing called? The other rearview mirror? Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
exactly.
not a rear. This is the rearview mirror. What's that?
Yeah, the side mirror.
Side view. The side view mirror is a million miles away over there. Right? Now, you get up. You go sit in the do you need this pointing at me? You go sit in the passenger seat, And every car you go by looks like you're going to crash. You're sure it's going to crash. Mm-hmm. Why? Because your perspective, 99% of the time you're in the car, is over here, and everything's far away. So you have to understand spatial relations, that when you're sitting in the passenger seat, just chill. You are not going to hit the side mirror. How many times, by showing of hands, how many times did your husbands hit the other side mirror?
I've done it more when I'm driving than he's
Okay. So the issue, I've never met, I've given the class a lot. I've never had anyone raise their hand and say, oh yeah, my husband does it all the time. I never had someone say, my husband did it once. Right. So it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. You can take that worry off your head and recognize that's why it's so stressful being a passenger. That's 60% of the battle. The other thing, I had one of the women, she was asking me, oh, what are you teaching in your class, blah, blah, and I was talking about control. And I said, and I got so many emails, so much mail this week about driving. It's so weird, and we covered it. We've already covered it a few times. And believe me, we'll be there again, okay, because they're hard. But so she said, oh, my husband is certifiably, like if they handed out certificates and figure this out, he's certifiably the worst driver ever. Really, whatever you're dealing with, like the worst ever. I am terrified for my life. And she said for the first bunch of years of marriage, now she's married more than me, I think 35, 40, 30, I don't know, whatever. She said, for those first years, I was a wreck until I got to the place, and I thought this was beautiful, that's why I'm sharing it. I got to the place where I realized, if it's my time to go, it's my time to go. There ain't nothing, my yelling at my husband isn't going to change things. God runs the world. And she said, I've been doing that for about 10 years. She said, sometimes I do it more than other times, but she said, that's how I deal with it. I actually, frankly, I thought that was beautiful. Because, this is in God's hands. And if you're fighting with your husband and directing your husband and telling him how to do and controlling him and whatever, are you making a better driver? No, I'm probably making him a worse driver because now it's like, Are you making him, one second, hold on a second. Are you making him, are you creating shalom so that now it's a peaceful day? Of course not. By her saying, it's in God's hands. That's basically what she was saying, in a very morbid, strange kind of a way. It's in God's hands. It's a much more powerful way to spend your time in the car. Go ahead.
What if he listens to you? How do you deal with it?
Oh, you're driving and he's telling you.
Yeah.
So, can you just let him drive?
Well, let's say it's your driving.
Let's say you just have him
Whatever
drive and he
reason,
keeps
like
commenting.
I drive.
Oh, that's a first.
Oh, remember I told you the story that happened to me? Remember I was driving to the winery and I was not good. I'm not a good driver.
Wait, you were driving?
And I don't drive well, but he wanted me to drive, and I was driving the whole. It was a long drive, and I'm not so good.
And
it was great. It was like a great bonding experience. We made a lot of humor out of it. We actually just laughed about it 2 days ago. We just were joking
about driving in Napa.
Someone was saying they were going to the winery. I said, you know what, I would love to get to the winery. I wouldn't want to drive there. He said, I for sure wouldn't want to drive there with you.
You've got a good sense of humor about it.
We were joking about it because it wasn't personal. I know I'm not a great driver.
You mean like you would switch lanes and then go out the exits there?
I'm a very good, safe driver. I'm just not I'm just going to go.
Yeah, she's a very good, you heard what she said. She's a very good, safe driver, which means she was on one lane and stayed on that lane, even though all other lanes were empty, and the lane in front of her had a car that was going 5 miles per hour.
Right.
She stood behind that lane.
Was when there was a big truck next to me.
You've driven with her. I can tell. That was too detailed, sorry.
Doesn't it make you nervous when there's a big truck on either
yeah.
side of you?
And it winds you.
I think I was like this, and he's like, I'm like, it's not me, it's the truck. It's blowing us. He goes, cars don't get blown like that. It's you. And I'm like, I don't know.
And he's sitting on the side
She's
of the
going
truck,
like this
so
on the-
all he's thinking is I'm ending up in the truck.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, the truck's gone.
So, tell me how you solved your problem, because I don't even remember this. I thought this was the first time.
You can.
If you don't think you're a good driver, if I think you're a great driver, and
it's
he's
with anything in
nervous.
life. If you're not, if you take it personally and you become defensive, it's with anything. Even if you're a great cook and someone doesn't like your kugel, if you take it personally and that becomes what defines you, and you become sensitive and defensive, then it's going to turn into an
Well,
uncomfortable
I
situation.
understand that you can't do it with a husband because it's very hard for a person to take. It's very hard for me to take also. The question is, how do you deal with it?
How do you deal with it when he's the one critiquing you?
Yes,
So, ladies, what? Let's hear.
Who drives most of the time?
he does.
He does. So I'm just thinking about me and my relationship with driving. I would just say, now I know what it feels like, you know, and I think I'll be quiet next time.
That's actually cute. That's funny. So here's the thing. A lot of these things can be handled by preempt. I've got to get another word than
give
preemptive.
him a sleeping pill.
Right, there's-
Right when you get in the car, say, "Here, honey, I have something yummy for you to take." He
and
knocks
then
out,
he's-
and you
he's
drive.
out, he's out. So, no, but a lot of this, what's a better word than preemptive? Like, because preemptive, huh? Be prepared. So preemptive conversation, which is, no, I have to explain it. And so I need a better word than preemptive. But anyway, if you know a better word than preemptive, email me or put it below. I've been working on it.
Like discuss it before.
Yeah. To set up the
So
situation ahead of
situation,
time.
He said you're going to be driving, and you know, oh, it's a 45-minute drive, and whatever. Say, listen, you know, I just want to say I'm going to drive tomorrow.
He said preventative.
Preventative. No, it's someone.
Meaning,
typed it?
no, meaning that you should be set up your situation.
A
to-
preventative communication.
Exactly.
Well, it's preemptive because you know what's going to happen.
Correct.
I know. I've got to look at this thesaurus. So
You're gonna
no,
have to
but
find the word.
yeah, I've got to find the right word. But anyway, the issue is that it's a preemptive communication. So listen, I know we're going to go later today. We're going to go tomorrow. We're driving to the wedding. You're going to be doing something in the car, so you're going to be answering your emails, whatever it is. I just want you to know, sometimes when you're driving, I work very hard to not say anything. And, you know, when we're driving, I just feel like I'm going to get us there. Is it possible that you can, you know, not correct my driving all the time? I find it, you know, a little bit challenging. I don't want to cause a fight right now. The reason I'm saying it now, so in the car, I'm not sitting there, because sometimes when you say something, it makes me nervous. I think, you know, remember the thing I used to tell my husband, cop! He'd swerve out of the lane, whatever, you know. So, you know, you have to really be careful. But, so, you know, if on a preemptive thing, most guys will hear it. He might feel a little chastised before the fact, but it's certainly a lot better than in the thing, you getting all tensed up and ruining wherever it is that you're going, you know, if you're going to, and even if it's going to, you're going to, let's say, a therapy session for a kid who has speech thing, or you're going to a therapy, or you're going to, I don't know, what else is stressful. You're going to meet the principal, or you're going to interview at a job, whatever it is. You can even say, look, I'm going to be a nervous wreck driving tomorrow. You know, I know you want me to drive. I'm happy to drive, but please, you know, be as supportive as you can, because I'm going to need it. I'm going to need it. Emotionally, spiritually, every way. I'm just going to need you. Great job, you know, as I avoid, you know, bumping into the fire hydrant, you know. So, yeah. Okay, fine. Very good questions. Okay, good. So, let's go. Your answer to your homework, which was that you said take a right, take a right. So, let me just ask you, first of all, do other people have solutions that she could have done? Like when he said, oh, let's drive together. What could she have done mentally to prepare herself?
Put duct tape on my lips.
Put duct tape on your lips or whatever.
Drive
Yeah,
with something across my
Well, I
mouth.
think if she knows that the destination is not the point is spending time together in the car, that's also something. So even if it's longer.
Right. So now here is, and this we're going to be covering today. Hopefully we get there. Yeah, we have to move along. Okay. So her situation, they ended up, and she was right. Get that? Sarit was accurate in her judgment about what's the better way to get to school. Of course, she's done it for years.
Leah, am I ever wrong?
Have you ever wrong?
No, just want you to clarify.
Just checking,
Okay.
just clarifying, just clarifying. So you have she was right in her answer. It's not about being right, because as we're going to learn today, there are, we're going to go into our sources. There's a difference between being right and being happy. We all know we all heard that before. But it's more than that. It's deeper than that, which is that there are correct decisions, going the right way to the carpool, in the carpool way, and then there are the blessed decisions. This is mind-boggling. If you have the right decision, your husband wants to buy the Ford Focus, and you're saying, let's get the Prius, okay? It's a much better car, but I don't know if it is. Forgive me, I don't know what I'm talking about, okay? I just heard that it's got better gas mileage. I don't know, the electric cars or whatever.
Prius will sponsor you on the Ladies TalkShow.
There
so
you
feel
go.
free
Come
to reach
on
out.
in.
Yes.
Write a check. We're here. Have pay for. So he wants to, and you are you went Googled it, okay, and you looked up 4,000 things, and you looked at Consumer Reports, and you looked at this and that and the other thing. You are correct. So a correct decision means you say, we are not buying the Focus, we are buying the Prius, that's it. I'm putting my foot down. I'm going to control the situation. You go into control the situation. We're buying the Prius. It's a better car. That's the right, correct decision corroborated by independent experts, okay? And Focus, we're also, very happy at you. I'm just using it as an example. Yeah, right, exactly. So that's a correct decision. Now here's, in the spiritual world, what happens. Because there has been machlekes, there's been disagreement, argument, contention, conflict. What happens in the spiritual world over here is that the Prius that you were going to buy, the Focus that you were going to buy goes to a nice little family over here, whatever, and they drive that car for 300,000 miles, okay? It goes to their kids. Their grandkid is even driving that car, okay? The Prius, okay, now we'll get the sponsorship from Focus. Okay, the Prius that there was a fight about that you were so right about, it's always in the shop. It's the first Prius. I mean, the guy at the dealership, he said, I've never seen a car this bad. I'm like, oh, good. Can I get a lemon? What's it? Lemon law returns. He says, no, because the carburetor still works. The carburetor, I don't know what I'm talking about. You could probably tell. The wheel alignment in the carburetor works, so you can't get it. You're not going to get any money for this. But this is the worst one I ever saw. That's what happens when you have a decision that's not blessed. So how do you get a decision that's blessed? That means that you have shalom, you have peace in the marriage. And when there is peace, it doesn't matter what's right or wrong. It doesn't matter that her way to get to the carpool, to the school, was better than his. That was the right thing. And she told him, that's right. It didn't have shalom. It didn't have peace, so it wasn't blessed decision. I'm sorry.
No, and I like that, by the way. I like how you worded that it's not the right decision. It's choosing to have a blessed decision.
A blessed decision.
I like that. I think I'm gonna
and I will tell
put
you
that into play.
That's good, but it's harder. It's harder because in the moment you're right. And as human beings, I don't know why God did this. He's a big joke. Okay, He made us want to always be right. Okay, we're all like, raise your hand. We all want to be right. Okay, that's how it is. That's the challenge. And if you understand that being right isn't the answer, that's not the be-all way to make decisions. You make the decision based on shalom. Now, is it when in the script or the moment when he's sitting there and he's in the wrong lane, and she has to go through the thought process of saying that's not blessed. I should give in. I should just let him go the way he wants to go. It's about being together. That's very hard to do in the spur of the moment. If you think about it beforehand, that's why we're in this class. If you think about it beforehand, you work on yourself. Maybe you keep a journal or a notebook or a little Post-it note saying, it's about a blessed decision, not a right decision. Remember that. And you drill this into yourself. This is how in Rav Salanter and in the Musar movement with Rav Volbe, they all bring it down. And it's slowly but slowly. First, you work on your head of understanding what's the right way to be, what's the right way to do things. You think about it. You learn from teachers. You look at role models. What's the right thing to do it? How do I get into my life? That's another. Sometimes insights and instantly in the spur of the moment, you'll do the right thing. But usually it's a process, making notes. It should be, taking notes to yourself or whatever, remembering certain things after the class or going back and reviewing this class. If this is a particularly difficult thing for you, review is the way to get it into your heart and to actually act in a way. Now, what's in it for you? A woman wants connection more than anything on the planet Earth. And I have sources for that. Actually, I'm going to give you the sources now because this is we're carrying on with all these little aside things. But a woman wants connection, way more than she ever wanted control. And when you give in and when you go for shalom, there's a level of closeness and connection that you may have been yearning for since the day you were born. And it's available to you just by doing this. And this is not one of those things, say, oh, Leah, okay, fine, what she said. This is a try this at home, guaranteed. I can't tell you, we have it from our sources, it's guaranteed, and you will try it, and you'll say, oh my gosh, it's really worked. If Sarit, when he was in the wrong lane, and she had zipped her lip, they would have gone, that in the spiritual world, all of the clouds would have shifted, all of the malachim would have shifted, everything would have shifted up there. And after the carpool, her husband would have said, I'm taking you guys all out for lunch. Why did he think of that? I don't know, the thought popped into his head. Why did God make the thought pop in his head? Because he cherishes shalom. It's the most important thing to God. So this will bear out, and next week we're going to come back and report some of our little miracles that we see. Okay, I'm going to, what?
Follow. Could you repeat that?
Which part?
What you just said about it'll pop into his head.
Right, so they're driving to the thing. He's about to take the wrong way. Oh my goodness, so instead of it taking 4 minutes and 20 seconds, it's going to take, what was it, 5 minutes on the nose?
Yeah.
Something like that. Okay, so it's going to take 5. So they're going to lose 40 seconds by his stupid decision, okay? I'm only teasing you. I know you love
Rub it in, rub it in. I love it.
Right, okay, what'd you say?
I said, rub it in. I come here to get abused by you.
We're working on that. Okay. So anyway, when she stands there in the car and she's about to open her lift, say, take a left. That's not the right way. Instead, if she were to zip her lip, the spirit and the spiritual realm. And I have sources for this. This isn't like I'm a woo-woo person. I happen to be a little bit of a woo-woo. I'd say I'm slightly woo-woo, okay? Mostly really grounded, but there is a spiritual universe. There is a spiritual world, and we can tap into that, and it's part of this world. And we have many, many, many sources for that. That's not me making it up. So on the spiritual level, when she zipped her lip and goes for shalom, goes for peace, all the heavens are swirling around over there, and God himself is saying, this is gorgeous. She's doing the most important thing to me, which is going for peace. So now her husband gets to the carpool thing, and they were going to come back. They had this harried day. Oh, no, I'm busy. She said, oh, you want some lunch? No, I'm busy. I've got work to do, whatever. They pick the kids up. The kids are in the car. He says, we're going to lunch. I'm taking you guys all out for pizza or sushi or I don't know what he So... oh, how did that happen? How did it suddenly, before he said he couldn't go, now he said he could go. God plunked it into his head because he's happy in his heart. If he got, and that on a practical level, if they're having conflict and he gets to the carpool and whatever, and he has the thought going to lunch, he says, I don't want to go with her.
Right,
Like I don't want to be told what to do and she's right and I'm wrong. Okay, go.
Yeah, I just want to reinforce what you're saying, that I actually see this, that as I am zipping my lip more, Hashem is changing his heart. Like suddenly he's like, what? He can see that? I'm telling you, really, it's like total turnaround on certain things.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this is beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And I will tell you this story, that this is a student of mine from, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago or something, and I was going over these lessons in my other class or whatever, in a different class, and she said she came in from the garage. I don't know if people have garages or whatever, but they had a garage, and she carried a bag of paper towels, right? That had been chewed by rats on the edges and on the sides and whatever. And she was like, I'm going to faint. Whatever. Like, it was just disgusting. So she was showing it to him and saying, look what happened to us. And you know what his response was? This is a true story. His response was, this is only a guy could say this. I'm sorry for the technical guys in the room, but only a guy could say this. Take out the outer few layers of the paper towels and we'll use the inside part. Oh. She's like, like they crawled on it. Their teeth could have gotten on that part. They could have gotten to the bathroom like she was just whatever. Now, thank God she was in my class, because otherwise I don't know if the guy would still be with us. But so there she is, and she's. So she did the zip your lip. She zipped her lip, which, I mean, I was...
No, she
What she said, this is a tool actually we're going to learn in a couple of classes from now. So this is a preview of coming attractions. She learned the tool from me. Somebody has to turn off their beeper. Who's beeping? Okay, so she turned to him and she said, these are the magic words. It's a tool. This is one tool for the day. Let's discuss it later. Let's discuss it later, because she knew he's about to lose his head. And she's going to be the one with the axe in her hand with whatever, don't need to be gross, but he was about to lose his head. Let's discuss it later. And she walked away like he probably was, no, let's discuss it now. That's a whole case. I think there were a dozen rolls of toilet paper and he wanted, whatever. Whatever. Okay. So, but anyway, she walked away, and just like you're saying, she came back and she saw, they weren't where they had been, where she had put them down. Okay, she didn't put them, it was still outside. But don't worry, it wasn't on the kitchen counter or anything. It was outside. She had put them, and she looked over, they were gone, and then she checked, and they were in the side trash from saying nothing. He had thrown them out. He had, like, even though whether he still thought he was right, which I hoped
Joking.
He wasn't joking. Wasn't joking. It wasn't joking. But it was the zipping the lip.
Didn't say anything. He just had thrown out. Interesting.
Yeah, and then I hope he took care of the rats in the attic.
Yeah, exactly.
Or the mice. They were mice. Rats are somehow more. Even though no, don't say anything. I like rats, but and pet rats. I mean, people who have pet rats, they're very smart. But anyway, like they're like bunny rabbits, but whatever. I can't believe I'm saying this on national whatever. But anyway, but really wild rats, no, and mice and whatever, and they So anyway, but that was the end of that story. Okay, let's get into our sources. Okay. Okay. Here's the sources. Okay. Yeah, we talked about control versus connecting. So we want to think about how frequently we have conflicts with our husband. We want to think about the fact that we always think, like, if our husband did everything our way, life would be better. Like, we have the right way to do things. We know how to get the dishes washed without soap on them. We know how to, like the sweeping gets done, and then you're looking like there's stuff, and like every little corner, getting stuff out of the corner is the hard part, but some people don't care that it's there, and you do, These kinds of things, if they did things our way, they would be better. And here's the news flash. Our way is the right way. Overlooking it is for peace. At some point, when it's not in the heat of the moment, saying, by the way, I don't know if anyone ever taught you how to sweep out of the corner. You kind of have to, how do you sweep out of the corner? Whatever. It's kind of like you brush it to one side, then you brush it to the other, then you put the dustpan, then, whatever. You show him. He may not realize and might be happy for that. Again, when there's no conflict going on, when you're not chastising him for how badly he did it, in a certain situation, you can teach him. That's fine. But again, going for peace. Okay. Here are our sources. The Ben Ish Chai writes that Chazal tell us you should bend down. This is bending down to. This is directed to the husband. You should bend down and listen to your wife. If she acts like an equal, then he interprets the Mishnah as saying, don't take her advice. However, if she understands that her husband is the king, then he should bend down and take her advice. So this is very politically incorrect. His equal. The woman's not his equal. Like, Leah, are you out of your mouth? Did those words really just come out of your mouth? They actually came out of the Ben Ish Chai's mouth. But here's what you have to understand. Is a captain of a ship equal to a navigator? This is too close. I'm sorry. No, it's okay. Leave it. No, it's fine. I'm blaming somebody else for my being a klutz. Okay, so there you go. So is the person who's the captain of the ship equal to the navigator? I don't know. I mean, I would say, the captain is kind of runs the house. Can there be two people running the house? If you want constant battle, yeah. You can have misery if you want two people. No one in the planet Earth would say, oh, we should have two presidents of the United States. We should have two kings of England or two queens of England. We should have two rulers. Everybody knows, oh my gosh, that would be a disaster. For whatever reason, I don't know the reason, God made the husband the king and us the queen. Now, if you have a captain running a ship without a navigator, Where's that ship going to go? Nowhere. And it's going to crash into other ships, and it's going to hit the land and the what are those things called? The thing that you land on, the dock. Thank you. So you have to have a captain. You have to have a navigator. You're the navigator. The Ezer Kenegdo, the helpmate opposite your husband. That's who you are. That's our identity. We can fight it. We can say, "Oh, I want equality. All we want." Then we lose our king. Then we lose our whole, we think we need control. We lose connection. This is not a script that I wrote. This is what God gave us. These are our sources. I'm going to give you more sources, but I just want you to know, you can fight me on this one, and you're welcome to. And write down below or send me emails and say, hey, Leah, explain this and that and the other. I'm totally open to that. But I do ask you one favor. Give it a try. Give it a try. See what happens to your level of happiness by trying. This is guaranteed. I'm guaranteeing you now. Your level of happiness and contentment will go up. I'll get to your question in a second. Let me just go through this. Or is it on this? Yeah, maybe and then I'll go to the sources.
So what if in the past you were very controlling and involved, and your husband resents it and feels that there's consequences still? So you just...
Right. Very good question. Oh, I'm glad I let you ask the question. You ask great questions, BTW. By the way, for those of you who aren't on social media. Okay. Or texting. So she said, what happens if you've spent she didn't ask it this way, I'm asking it in a more dramatic way because I have a lot of students who ask this question, which is, what if you've spent most of your career, most of your married life controlling your husband? And now, she's been in my class for a couple of years now, what if you come to realize, oh my gosh. So now you are saying, you're being the nice navigator, and you come to him and you say, wouldn't it be better if we take a look at the Prius and, maybe we should go test drive it or whatever. And he's like, she's controlling me. And she's, nope, we're buying the Focus. That's it. Because his knee-jerk reaction, remember we talked about knee-jerk, right? His knee-jerk reaction to you is you've always controlled him, so he has to fight off. Here's the most gorgeous thing in the entire world. If you learn nothing else from this class, this is it. Hello, garbage truck.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. They're cleaning up out there. It's a good thing. It's all good. So here's the thing, is I forget totally what I was going to say. Yeah.
Interfering or controlling, and now you talk very charming.
Yeah, he's so used to you controlling. He
And
doesn't
his
even
knee-jerk
hear what you're
reaction
saying.
is-
His
Right,
knee-jerk
okay, yeah,
reaction
okay.
is
So
taking
his
control.
knee-jerk reaction is that you are, the control freak, and you're going to control him. So that's how he reacts. Here's what happens. Here's the secret. If you learn nothing else, is this. The minute you give your husband control, he will begin to ask you for your advice about everything. It's remarkable. Where you were grabbing control and trying to whatever and butting heads and grabbing control for years to try and get your way, now you give him control and say, do it however you want. And he'll say, how do you think I should do it? Mm-hmm. It's the most gorgeous thing. You have so much power in influence and zero power in control. It's gorgeous, and it's just because of the way men were built and the way women were built. So if you can come down from your powerful self, I'm speaking to doctors and lawyers and nurses and teachers and powerhouse moms who get a million things accomplished, people who are taking care of sick children. You are powerful. If you can get over having to have the stature and control and just be content being an influencer, you'll have a lot more influence, a lot more of what you need to be happy in life. And more than that, your husband is going to be this self-satisfied. You can see. I told this story where we were in front of a restaurant, and this one of my students comes, and she's with her husband, and she says, "Oh, this is Leah Richeimer. This is my teacher from the Ladies TalkShow." And her husband says, "Can I buy my wife a lifetime membership in your class?" Why? Because she's treating him like a king, and he's so content in his life. She laughed. She said, "Yeah." This kind of growth is so good for us. It makes us maximize our potential and maximizes our relationship with our husband. There's a level of closeness with your husband that you haven't tapped into yet. First of all, it's an infinite level. But whatever level you feel close and bonded to your husband, there's a lot more. There's a lot more depth. As you work on these things and follow our Masorah, follow our traditions, the more you work on it, there's like this glee, this contentment. Not all the time. You're still going to have annoying, and he's going to do his annoying things, and he's going to chew with his mouth open, whatever is going, whatever he's doing that's annoying. But the level of contentment you are going to have, that you were designed to have, is going to be much more available to you as you work forward. Okay, let's go to the other sources. Oh, my goodness. Okay, then I have to... Rav Shul writes that Hashem's main will is that shalom, harmony between man and wife. It supersedes, I'm quoting now, supersedes tzedek, which is justice. And what this means is that keeping the peace is more important than having your decisions prevail. Meaning, the right way is to drive to the carpool by taking a left instead of a right and doing a U-turn, okay? That's the right way for things to go. What he's saying, what Rav Shaul is saying, is that the shalom way is the one that's blessed. That's what he's saying here. Okay, let's see. The Maharasha interprets the verse, and I have discovered something more bitter than death, the woman who snares, whose heart is nets, whose arms are chains, to mean that a woman who wants to rule over her husband is worse than death. So if you're one of these people, and you know who you are, if you're constantly micromanaging and working on your husband and telling him what he should do and how he should do it, this is an area you need to watch the show 10 times. You need to read, the chapter on control in here called The Navigator. You need to go to clergy people, the Rebbitzins, communal leaders, somebody you can look up to, role models, and learn how to deal with this, because you're ruining your own happiness. It's not just that your marriage isn't going as how you had hoped it would be. It's your own happiness that's at stake here. So it's very crucial. Okay. Now, when I was in Israel last year, I went to visit, I was very fortunate, I got to visit Rebbitzin Kolodetsky, who is Rav Chaim Kanievsky's daughter. And I went to her to ask her, spoke out some Shalom Bayis issues, and then I said, listen, I speak to a lot of women about Shalom Bayis. Tell me one thing I can give over to teach about Shalom Bayis, about peace in the home. Without hesitation, she looked me right in the eye, and she said, I'm going to give this over in the name of the Chavetz Chaim that I heard from my father. And that is, and I'll quote her exactly, my father, Rav Chaim Kanievsky, gives over in the name of the Chavetz Chaim that nothing bad will ever happen if you are mevater yourself, if you give in. Nothing. You may not see it directly, but if you are mevater, if you give in, you will always gain. You will never lose. Very, very powerful. And we're going to work on how to do that next week. But I will tell you, hopefully next week, we're supposed to have a Q&A. I'm not sure what's happening. But eventually, there'll be a part 3 that we'll cut, because we have a lot more to cover of this subject. Obviously, I got a lot of mail this week and a lot of interaction here, a lot of points that were brought out. It's a very crucial, important topic, and I don't want to leave it and say, okay, that's a superficial thing. No, we want to go deep. That's what we're here for, and we'll take another class to finish up, to give you the exact tools. We're going to learn a tool. I'll give you a quick overview of that tool, but we'll go over it next week. The tool of the day, the tool of this is called control freak self-management. Okay, it kind of speaks for itself. How do you control? So the 3 things of it, and I'm going to give you 3. We're going to go into it in a lot of depth and discuss it back and forth, but I want you to have that so that you've got something. We're going into the holidays. I want everybody to have some really powerful tools for going in. Those are, number 1, notice when you're trying to control the situation. No, put the table that way and fold the table into this and the scissors and, put them there and they belong. Notice when you're trying to control him. That's number one. Number two, and we'll go into how to do that. Number two, zip your lip. That means to just freeze. For now, we're going to learn more tools than that, but this is the powerful one. Zip your lip. Think of the lady with the ratty paper towels that just did not say anything. Think of that, okay? And that's what you carry with you. Just say nothing. If you have to, or you can say, let's decide later. And if he says, no, I want to decide now, say, I'm probably not in the best mood to decide now because I feel conflict. So don't, just move on. The next one is to mavater, to give in. Those are the three things to control freak self-management. So that is basically saying, whatever you decide, dear, whatever you decide. So there's in the car, and he's in the wrong lane, and she says, whatever you decide. Do you think he's going to still take a right? Probably. God will put it, okay, I'm going to take a left or go around the loop or whatever it was that they were supposed to do. So that is the crucial issue. Okay, let's get to the homework. Are there any last questions or comments? Yeah. So basically what we covered today is we covered, issues of control, issues of wanting control, and we have a little bit of tools, starting to get the tools of how to actually, we're going to talk about society's influence because we're a little bit going, the river is coming this way and we're walking against the river. So we need to know how to bolster ourselves and to strengthen ourselves to be able to do this. I'm going to give you the homework. Okay, so the homework is the same secret of the day, which is the more control we give up, the more connected we are. And the homework for the week is knowing when you're trying to control your husband and pull one of these zip your lips or whatever you decide, dear, or let's discuss it later. That's the homework for the week. This is the Ladies Talk Show. I'm your host, Leah Richeimer. Thank you very much for being here. Please put notes in the comments below. Send me emails. Tag us. We want to, and if you have other questions or other topics you want us to discuss, let us know. Thank you very much for being here. We'll see you next week. Yay!